Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to tell a story to start this discussion. And as all good stories, this one includes in it a fancy dress ball. In this case, the governor's inauguration ball in 1987. At that ball, the soon-to-be Governor Neil Goldsmith stopped me on the dance floor and said to me that he wanted to start a commission for health care for the uninsured. He was worried at that point that 20% of Oregonians didn't have access to health care. And that
one moment, Representative. Could we keep the conversation on the floor very low so we can hear everyone? Thank you. Representative, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. He said at that time he was worried that 20% of Oregonians did not have access to health care. And he said he was going to name a commission that he wanted me to serve on to deal with the question of health care for the uninsured in Oregon. That commission went to work over 87 and 88 and declared that they believed every Oregonian should have the right to health care. And we recommended out of that commission a report that created the Oregon Health Plan. And that report had three components to it. It recommended we create a high-risk pool. It recommended that we reform the Medicaid program in Oregon to create a new model for Medicaid. And it also declared that we should have a small business mandate to provide health insurance for most Oregonians. The report of that commission was taken over by a physician at that time who was president of the Senate, named John Kitzhaber. And Kitzhaber added to the Medicaid reform the notion of a prioritized list and sent those bills to the legislature, passing three bills that defined the right to health care in Oregon. One, the Medicaid reform, the part we now know as the Oregon Health Plan, the high-risk pool, known as the high-risk pool that was put in place at that time, and also the small business mandate to provide health insurance as a part of employment for many Oregonians. All three went forward. Senate Bill 27 was the chief piece of that, and began to move forward. The small business mandate was repealed at the next legislative session, but the other two components went forward. When that was implemented in 1994, when the health plan modification came by, soon after that, the uninsured rate in Oregon dropped to 14%, moving slowly toward zero uninsured. We went forward in the 90s and into the end of the 90s, where a slump in Oregon caused some real problems for the Oregon Health Plan for funding for it. And in my first session in 2003, the Healthcare Committee of the House put together a proposal that implemented the financing of the program using taxes on healthcare providers, particularly on the hospital at that point. That saved the program, and as we moved forward, we got down to about 12% uninsured in Oregon, which brings us to where we are now. Well, it brings us to the ACA expansion, and in the 2011 session, where the House was split 30-30 Democrats, we implemented a most important piece, implementing the ACA components into the Oregon health system, and created the expansion of the Medicaid program and the Medicaid marketplace, which when fully implemented, moved our uninsured rate down to 5%, doing pretty well. The problem now, however, is that the ACA is under threat in Washington. Our expansion is threatened. The marketplace is threatened by activities here and in Washington. And that brings us to the place where I believe we need to take our next step, which I believe by 2019 we're going to need to seriously ask the question, are we going to move forward to move all people in Oregon under health insurance, or are we not going to make that kind of move? I believe we will have to deal with this in 2019, and I think as an important first step to deal with this, we need to ask the citizens, do they really believe that health care is the right of every Oregonian? House HAR 203 brings that question to the voters. I think it is time to make this step. I think the voters have a right to tell us how strong we have to move forward in 2019, and I ask you all to join me in support of House Resolution 203. Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, let me start with a little technical point. I was asked this morning whether the legislative intent in this bill was to put the responsibility on individual state and public entities, and it's clear that's not our intention. Our intention is to give the legislature the responsibility for dealing with this question. Madam Speaker, I'd like to tell another story. This story is a more personal one. In 2005, I went to a routine dental appointment, one that my insurance covered. And in that dental appointment, the dentist said he thought he saw something suspicious in my mouth, and he sent me to an oral surgeon, which was covered by my insurance. The oral surgeon looked at what the dentist said and said, well, I think that wasn't a problem, but what's this lump in the top of your mouth? And I said, I don't know, but it's been there for a while. So he sent me off to an otolaryngologist. The otolaryngologist looked at it. He was paid by insurance. The otolaryngologist looked at it and said, I think I need to biopsy that, and did a biopsy on the lump that was in the top of my mouth. After some time, there was a potential diagnosis of having non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I had CAT scans, PET scans, other genetic diagnostic, all paid for by insurance, which confirmed that I did have a rather rare type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The oncologist pretty much led me to believe that I had perhaps 6 months to live. I entered into what would have been the last year of life, something that we all talk about. But in selecting both social and chemotherapy agents that were pretty experimental, I ended up within 3 months being in remission, all of which happened because I had insurance and was able to do that. I stand before you today knowing that if I did not have insurance in 2005, I wouldn't be here. I would be dead. To me, this turns into not only a technical issue, but a moral issue. I believe everybody in this room believes people should not be excluded from health insurance. I don't have any doubt that every one of my colleagues believes that. And their vote today has to do with their concern about a set of technical issues that are real concerns. There's no question about that. This is to make sure that it's understood. I'm not imputing anybody's motive when I say we're faced with a critical moral decision. This is a decision that we've debated 3 times now. This is not the first time we've talked about it. and pass it out of the House twice before. I'm asking my colleagues to think about what this vote means to people who don't have health insurance, or people who are worried about being able to get covered for important healthcare matters in the future because of the changes that are facing us. I ask you to join me to support this resolution, to give our citizens of this state a chance to tell us how far we should dream, how far we should think ahead, how strong our aspirations should be to create not the perfect system of the day, but to move towards a serious and clear way towards universal access to health care in the state of Oregon. Thank you, Madam Speaker.